Our next perspective is from industry. Edy Liongosari is a leading expert in technology and innovation, serving as the Chief Innovation Officer at Accenture, one of our platinum sponsors for the Quantum World Congress. With a deep understanding of how emerging technologies like quantum computing will shape industries, Edy is at the forefront of guiding Accenture's efforts to integrate cutting-edge technologies into business strategies. Edy's extensive experience spans both the technical and business realms, helping organizations unlock the potential of next-generation solutions to drive transformation. His work focuses on how quantum computing, AI, and other advanced technologies can create new opportunities for businesses to gain a competitive edge in an increasingly complex world. With a passion for bridging the gap between technology and practical applications, Edy's insights on the future of quantum and its impact on business will be invaluable for our audience, you, today. Edy, thank you for your sponsorship here of Quantum World Congress and for driving a culture of innovation at Accenture and in the broader marketplace. Please welcome Edy Liongosari.
Good morning. Thank you, Stu, for a kind introduction. I'm Edy Liongosari. And this morning, I'm quite excited to share with you some of the work, but also, how nice of a weather today we compared to the last 2 days of the weather that we have. So I'd like to share with you a couple things. It's actually mostly stem from the work that we have been actually doing for the past couple of years with MIT and with World Economic Forum. We have like a sort of team that has been working on quantum for the past decade. We have actually quite a few people in the audience, actually part of my team, Carl Dukas, Shreyas Ramesh, and also the team from MIT as well, like sort of somewhere in this audience. That's actually helped us build this like sort of community. And you'll see that, key part of my talk today is about trust, public engagement, and how actually be able to take transformative technology like quantum to the next level by engaging with the larger audience. In a very similar way where like sort of Governor Pritzker just talked about, just in terms of how we be able to actually bring the community together. So the first one I'll start with is actually the Quantum Index report. And this is actually a report that we actually collaborated with MIT Digital Economy team. And actually to be able to give a large landscape of where quantum is, where it is going for the next couple of years. Now, I'm quite sure the past 2 days, you actually sort of see, quite a bit of briefings from various companies, organizations, how they actually sort of using, producing, and all the quantum technologies out there. But it's actually sort of hard to see overall how is actually the landscape shaping overall. And this actually index, it is actually very much data-driven, pulling a lot of data from various organizations, surveys and so forth, pull it together. And you can actually see it can cover quite a bit of data points, various topics from patents to community engagement. Now, it's a 100-page document, all right? So I won't actually even cover a glimpse of what's there, but just to give you a teaser of what is in the report itself, and hopefully that entice you to go into the report and actually tease out a lot of data points there, right? The first thing I will start with is something that's relatively light, like who has been actually talking about quantum, who has been actually pushing the market, okay? And what actually we did is actually collating all the data from corporate communication, especially their earning reports, their press releases and so forth, pull it all together. And here's actually the landscape, if you will. The first two is actually no surprise. IBM Alphabet has been actually sort of pushing really hard to actually sort of go for quantum. But the more interesting part, I think, is actually the second half, where it's actually a really good mix of the hardware producer, the investment community, as well as service organization like ours. What actually I don't show in this particular picture is the volume of communication. And it is actually sort of interesting enough that for the past 12 months, there's a serious spike of communication. And you can actually speculate why that is the case, and there's actually some hypothesis there in the report itself. But it's actually, we're living in a very interesting time for quantum itself. There's actually a lot of buzz, a lot of momentum driving the wave here. And this is actually sort of somewhat reflected in the World Economic Forum application hub that innovation lead last year actually sort of launched in this stage as well. In terms of what actually we're doing with World Economic Forum, bringing all the real application of quantum in the fingers of our people, fingers of the executive, policymakers, so forth, not just reading about it, but trying it out, pushing it. And that is actually sort of the whole application hub is all about. Right now, compared to what actually we had last year, there's a significant growth in terms of the type of applications out there. A lot of the work is actually sort of covered from financial prediction to supply chain to material science discovery. Lots of things there. So what I'd like to show you just a little glimpse of an application, just so give you a sense of the applications out there. So the one that we pick is actually from AXA Insurance. And AXA Insurance, insurance company is about risk management, essentially, right? And this chart is as an example of actually articulating risk. On vertical lines, you see sort of likelihood, and the horizontal axis is actually more the amount of loss there. Now, if you look at the top axis there in the high likelihood, that's actually sort of fairly common, right? So high likelihood of loss, but it's relatively small. The part actually need to have serious optimization is toward the tail end. Now, even though the tail end is really about rare events, but they can actually turn into break of the issues with the overall organization in terms of managing the big loss. The big loss that I'm talking about here is like this one, right? So Hurricane Maria, $32 billion, or the Katrina, $65 billion. Even though the probability of it actually really small, but the impact can be very devastating. So for some of these companies, they actually engage with reinsurer. And the way actually they do that is actually parcel out the policies that actually they consider has actually sort of different profiles, and they can engage reinsurer in terms of how to actually to manage the risk and the cost of a premium there, right? So you actually sort of parcel out and actually sort of pass along with the risk, of course, with the premium associated with that. So really what actually happened here is that what we want to see is actually something like this, where you actually want to reduce the tail end there, but actually, and while actually managing the cost overall. And in the application itself, you can actually sort of play around with that. There's a lot of complexity involved in doing the optimization. It's not just about, adding more portfolio means actually 2 to the power of n complexity in the combinatorial effect there. But we are talking about when you compare, when you factor in all the constraints, and geographical aspect of that, is actually around, I will say, about 200 to the power of n. It's significant complexity there. And the tools that allow you to try this yourself, you can try to sort of manually adjust that just to get a sense of the complexity involved. And actually, when you actually use quantum to actually optimize it, you can see how it's all come together, okay? So let me see if I can, I guess. Okay, the screen actually doesn't work very well. But you can actually sort of see there's a lot of animation here. And you can try that yourself to see how actually all come together. Parcel different type of packages to different part of the organization with the reinsurance, so forth, and I can sort of work that out that way. All right, so there's like sort of more to give you a sense of the application. Let's like sort of pop under the hood and look at the QPU. We talk a lot, the past 2 days, a lot of the qubits, logical, physical, just like earlier this morning. And really the key part of all of this is actually where things are. And this is actually a picture that I could try to capture the current state as well as sort of where we see it heading. And this is actually sort of based on some of the announcement that has actually been made by the manufacturer. So you have like a sort of physical qubit on the vertical axis, and you can see different modality by year cross. Now this is just more to give you a sort of a sense of the landscape. But the really interesting part to me is actually how all of this is being applied. So we pick chemistry as an example, as actually chemistry is actually touted as one of the killer apps for quantum. And this piece of work, you can actually find it yourself. It's a separate research. It's a published research. And there's actually sort of 3 interesting things coming out from this piece that actually we work with MIT. So one is that it will take about another decade to reach this quantum advantage for chemistry, another decade. And you see exactly the reason why that is the case. But also that for high accuracy computation, quantum is best suited for small and medium-sized molecule. But what happened to the larger molecule? It's still the classical computer, classical computing. When it's all factored in, the progression of classical computer, they're not staying still, continue to grow with all the GPU and everything else along with that. You have to actually calculate the overall cost. You have to calculate all the higher overhead as well. Now the point of this study is actually for us to understand the battlefield, that quantum is not the only game in town. We need to understand where's the battle that actually will be able to win and how to be able to drive that forward. And similarly, if you sort of look at quantum and AI in terms of their relationship overall, it is actually very critical to see that this is actually a symbiotic relationship in the sense that we actually, with all the development of AI today, we want to make sure that quantum fit in within the algorithms, be able to drive that. When we're ready to go, it just go with the AI. Now you can consider, whether AI is actually at this point, how hype of it is and so forth, but there is actually a lot of momentum behind that. And that's actually a sort of critical component of that as well. But then also, if you actually sort of think about the other way, where, obviously there's, we need a lot more quantum application, quantum algorithm for AI to learn and actually be able to actually use, for example, to support quantum developers, generating new applications that's actually based on quantum as well. So we need to sort of work with them, with AI team, to be able to actually put quantum and AI. It is actually symbiotic. It's a win-win situation all across. Now let's actually shift gear a little bit and talk about post-quantum readiness. And what actually you see this is, for those actually sort of familiar, this is actually from MITRE heat map in terms of cryptography. For those of you not familiar with the numbering scheme here, 0 means actually it's excluded from standardization. 5 means actually ready to be adopted. 9 means actually sort of wide adoptions, right? So that's actually sort of a range of things. And if you look at the map there, you see that there is no 9. At best, we have 8, 2. So this is like the SSL and then TLS 1.3 hybrid. So really the key part of the key message here is that there's still a long way to go. We are just like a sort of beginning in terms of how like to drive the adoption. And this is actually sort of another picture, mostly from the industry perspective, right? And actually in the terms of adoptions of PQC in their website. And at best, actually, you see this across. The blue ones actually is a PQC enabled. The orange one is non-PQC. And there's a lot more green, orange than the blue, right? At best, actually, you can see the consumer goods is roughly about 15%. It's a long, long way to go for us. And I'm going to be able to drive. There's a lot of opportunity to actually make things happen. Just to give you a sense of the landscape is still relatively still empty for us actually to go forward. Okay. Now remember when actually in the beginning, I mentioned about engaging the public for trust and engagement. So let's actually start from the ground up, right? So public familiarity. So we did a survey for about 1,000 US residents back in October of last year to get some there's a serious cautions about quantum. I won't go to all the details, but you can actually see from this chart that 40% of these residents no idea what actually quantum is about. Okay, very, very little, if any, at all. And why does actually matter? Why does matter, right? And it's a little bit like what actually Governor Pritzker mentioned. It's about if you really want actually for technology like quantum to be able to scale and to flourish, you need actually to engage the public. And if it is actually just within the inventor, the technologists, the physicists, and so forth, it will actually continue to actually within the dome of itself. We need actually to be able to open it up so the journalists, the students, and I'm very excited actually to see some students yesterday in this stage talk about quantum and so forth. But it's really the key part of it is actually to be able to engage the broader community to be able to drive this forward, especially when we need actually sort of public access, public resources, and a policy side, right? So to make sure that not only we get the right set of policies, but also to ensure that the bad policies actually don't go through. But we need actually to educate the public to begin with. And talking about policies, it is actually, it is actually kind of interesting when you see what exactly quantum symbolizes. Quantum symbolizes scientific leadership, economic competitiveness, and national security. It's a pride for many nations actually to be there to announce what quantum is all about. It's not just purely technology, but it's also a symbol of proudness. So what actually also means is that many countries, including, when yesterday we have ambassador from India talk about quantum as well. And I guess sort of, if you actually look at really the message is that everybody's actually sort of doing their own investment at a country level to be able to drive that at the infrastructure. And at the same time, they also actually introduce some of their own standards as well. And it's important to actually remember this because we as a community need actually to bring all the pieces together, maintaining a balance of the country's security, as well as collaboration to drive innovation. And that's actually really the critical part of all of this work. And it's actually hard to be able to maintain such a balance there. So one of the things that we can actually look into is actually the EU framework on quantum, right? So that is actually sort of where they'll be able to actually bring the community together, all the EU members country, pool their national resources, but each country actually has a way to monitor various aspects of the development of quantum, and especially from the ethics perspective, also the impact on their own society. So that we need actually a much more comprehensive framework. You can start with the EU framework that we have there, but it's actually very critical to think about sort of broadly how to tie things together. It's not one or the other, it's about balance there. All right, so I throw a lot of things at you in just a short amount of time. So here's actually my call to action. Continue to work on the public trust and engagement. I think that is actually the next stage for the quantum development in terms of how we be able to scale that out in the public mind. Second thing is actually keep sharing. Use actually the World Economic Forum, application hub to actually share your success, show people what that actually quantum is real. It's not just somewhere in theoretical fashion, especially in the public mind. Be there to share your wins. The third is actually practice what we preach, right? The PQC example that I just showed you earlier, there's a long way to go. We need actually to push it even actually harder to have the PQC adoption there. And the fourth one, and this actually related to the AI topic I mentioned, be in the room, not just this room where we focus on about quantum, but also every topic that we have around AI or any emerging technology, because like sort of what happened is that you'll be able to bring quantum topic into the engagement, to the communication, provide opportunity to see how actually quantum fit into all of the various business opportunity out there. So don't actually just confine yourself to the quantum and quantum community. Be out there, be actually engaged actually to drive a larger communication and to be on the front of the engagement. So that's all I gotta have. Run out of time, but I just want to encourage you to take a look at the Quantum Index report here. I hope that you take a look at it and I can share it more broadly. Thank you.